When you need a new roof or just have a pesky leak, you want to call on the winning team, it's Schulte Roofing, home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee. Get the best. Visit SchulteRoofing.com. This is the Aggie Basketball Hour with Buzz Williams. We're at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Aggies coming off a win over LSU on Saturday, and coming up this week, 2 on the road. Wednesday at Ole Miss, an 8 o'clock tip, and Saturday at Texas, 1:30 is that game against the Longhorns. And the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies is with us. Howdy, Coach. How are you?
Our game Wednesday's the late game, and our game Saturday's the early game.
That's where I was going. I was going with that. I think it's the latest game on Wednesday of all the games, and then except an 11 o'clock tip, that would be the earliest on Saturday, would it not? It's a quick turnaround for 2 games on the road.
Thanks for telling me.
Schedule makers, right, Buzz? You have a little bit of time. It was very compressed going to Kentucky. A little bit of time before LSU, and then this Wednesday, Ole Miss. But Buzz, here's LSU, right? Unranked. People thinking, well, okay, how good are they? And I don't care if the team has a number next to their name or not. I use this word a lot. It's just a gauntlet in the SEC, is it not?
Yeah, that's why I was asking what we were ranked, because I didn't know when I heard you talking about that. Who ranks?
Right, in the AP.
And then who votes. But, yes, sir, I agree with what you said. I say it too often. Whether there's a number by one of the 62 voters in front of their name or not in this league, home or away, I don't know that matters too much. And
have to protect home, right? And if you're fortunate enough to play well and win on the road, that's like another check mark, is it? And I know you have your system of the +1 and all of that, but it seems like degree of difficulty in diving or in gymnastics might have to be applied to basketball now, playing on the road in the SEC.
Yeah, I think I've told our guys that, and I would say stereotypically it's always been that way. But I think for sure it'll end up that way this year, which is how years ago we developed the +1, -1. Mm-hmm. And so after 5 games, Texas A&M is still a 0. The issue with the 0 is we've played 3 home games and 2 road games. So you want to finish with as high of a positive number as possible. 6 is the highest we've ever gotten, which is I don't anticipate anybody will get 6 in this league this year. I think there will be multiple teams that have losing records that are at-large bids to the NCAA tournament. And but to your point, and I've mentioned it to some of the older guys who are somewhat past the system of numbering that we have, the separator will be road wins. Mm-hmm. And you need to do everything possible to win at home, because you're going to have quad 1A games at home and quad 1A wins on the road. And that's why I think the number, so to say, as far as the ranking, that ranking is worse than Van Alstyne math, because it has nothing to do with the game that we're currently playing. We play Alabama quad 1A game last week at home, and we play at Kentucky quad 1A game on the road, and our ranking that matters goes up. Mm-hmm. We lose both, but it's because of the opponent and the algorithm relative to the efficiency of our team on both sides of the ball and their team on both sides of the ball, and what the math says is supposed to transpire when those 2 teams play. And again, even though there's so much exposure to this and there are livelihoods at stake, no one has ever published exactly what the algorithm is, which is somewhat foolish in my opinion. But if you dig deep enough into it and study it long enough, you begin to find certain filters that apply. And that'll be the case at Oxford on Wednesday night. It's another quad 1 game that could turn into a 1A game. They've lost one game by one possession in overtime in this calendar year, playing at an incredibly high level. They have 9 high major plus players. They have a Final Four coach. They're among the best in the country at creating turnovers. They're third in the country at not having turnovers. Top 20 offense in the half court. Top 30 defense in the half court. So that's the level of competition that we have seen thus far in many respects, and nothing will be different about that other than the weather in Oxford and the tribulations that it looks like we're already going to go through just to hopefully get there.
Yeah, with that coming in just a little while here in College Station. There are some teams that like to load up their non-conference and then get into conference, whether it's for confidence, whether it's for team, and we've talked about this before, about having this type of experience and I dare say maturity for this team to go through the non-conference to get you ready for the conference. Other coaches have different thoughts. Okay, let's get some wins and take on the conference. But you better be prepared. I go back to what you say. Every big win leads you to another bigger game. I know I'm paraphrasing. I'm not getting it right what you say, but that allows you to get a win and bounce back from 2 losses to beat an LSU team on Saturday. Does it not be? I guess, Buzz, the question is, the moment's never too big for this team, is it?
Well, I do think that we have great competitive maturity. Is a part of it who they are, for sure? Is it a part of it their experience as players wherever they have been? Yes. To some degree, is it because of the non-conference reps we have? I would say yes. So I think it's a culmination of several factors, not just one. But I think part of competitive maturity is how do you handle winning? But also competitive maturity is how do you handle losing? And I think our program with this group, this roster, this staff, I think our maturity is even going to the next level in regards to, well, we only play 2 games a week. And so this month we're going to play 8 games. Well, in the 30 days of the month, we're going to take 1 day off per week. So the least number of things we're going to do in the month of January is have a day off. We're going to have 4. The second least thing we're going to do in the month of January is we're going to play a game. 8. Oh, so what are you going to do the other 19 days? Well, that's a work day for us. Mm-hmm. And so I think the next layer that we're approaching is how to have competitive maturity in those 19 days. Because if you can have improvement in those 19 days and you have some metric in order to measure that improvement, and the program is aware, the program is seeing pictures of it, the program's practice itinerary reflects it, the notes that the players and coaches are taking reflect those metrics. Now all of a sudden, in between those game days, there's a chance that you're improving, but only if you have borderline elite maturity from everybody in the room, because that's really hard to do. Is there injuries? Is there wear and tear? Are you playing at 8 o'clock on the road and you're going to get home at 4 a.m. and you will play the next game on the road in 48 hours? Mm-hmm. Okay, what is your maturity on what to do in the film room, what to do on the floor? Is the floor full speed? Is it reel on reel? Is it no contact? Is it zero contact? Is it limited? There's a lot of decisions in that. And I think we're being pulled by the experience of our players. I think we're being pulled by the thin line that our staff knows that we're working from on where is the detail, where is the margin, because all of this is in the margin that will save us a possession, that can get us a possession. We have 3 free throw blockout offensive rebounds versus LSU that lead to 2 baskets. Not being a jerk, we only scored so many baskets. We did miss a lot of free throws, which led to that. But if that's a margin, well, who's in charge of that margin? That's Coach Rock, and it's a big deal in our program. Free throw blackouts, us getting it. But thus far, through 5 conference games, we've given up 2 of those free throw blackouts. And so we're +1 in the possession we have created on our free throw blackout through 5 games. And that's one possession as an example. From a competitive maturity standpoint, that's what we're fighting for. Coach Dev was speaking to, showing clips of practicing pictures of one specific thing in transition defense. Not the big picture. We know the big picture. We practice the big picture. One specific detail within transition defense. Consumed 12 minutes in the film room on Thursday, clips of it again on Friday for 8 minutes, and then showing clips of it again this morning from Saturday's game. The one detail specific to us, 100% execution by us, but then also showing LSU, not saying they're coached the same way relative to transition defense, but showing how we have made a change and how that detail they're not paying attention to and how it led to positive things for us. Again, not critiquing their coaches, just talking about the details relative to our roster, our style of play on both sides. And that's that takes, as I said, that's elite maturity to be able to concentrate, to be able to look at that. And let's have this walk through right here. I don't want to turn your motor on, but I want you to have a kinesthetic rep of this is where it's going to be, this is the spacing, and we may need this out-of-bounds play to score short clock. And so that's fun if you're demented, and we have a lot of demented people in the film room. And so, like, the language we're speaking, it's like demented. And we all understand it. And we let the smart people talk the most in the film room. The smart people talk the most during a game. But the category of dementedness, we all have the DNA for that. And but you don't always get that. Right. Sometimes you have a lot of really smart people, but their ability to have endurance and concentration, their DNA doesn't say demented. Their DNA says pretty. Their DNA says skilled. Their DNA says talented. Their DNA says 5-star. All of that stuff is good. We don't have a lot of that stuff, but we all check the box demented. And we've kind of bent demented to be a competitive advantage in some ways.
He's Buzz Williams, and this is the Aggie Basketball Hour. We're at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. More with the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies when we return. It's Aggie Basketball from Learfield. When you want a quick, delicious, and nutritious hot meal in minutes, look no further than Heat Ups. Convenient, high-protein meals on the go. Local pickup in Aggie Land. Head on over to heatups.com to place your order. Heat Ups, meals made simple. We continue with the Aggie Basketball Hour with Buzz Williams as we roll into the second half hour of this show, talking about the 2 road games. The Aggies will be playing at Ole Miss and at Texas. Buzz, does this style that the Aggies play, you hear this a lot, defense travels. Their style travels. Does the Aggie style of basketball travel? Does it matter if you're home or road the way this team plays?
Well, I think it always matters if you're at home or on the road, particularly in this league. I think the crowds continue to improve at Reed Arena. That matters. I personally think the arena at Ole Miss and the environment and the ambiance is one of the more under-heralded arenas in this league for sure. Kentucky is worthy of all that comes their way specific to that. Tennessee, through the roof, Arkansas through the roof, Auburn, I can't remember, a zoo, like that's what it is.
Right.
But Ole Miss is really good. And so I think that does matter. Specific to our style of play, I do think that what we do travels. Mm-hmm. I do think to some degree we hope that what we do allows us, whether it's home, road, neutral site, tournament, preseason tournament, postseason tournament, we hope that we're able to continue to evolve and find ways to be more efficient and more effective. But yes, sir, I think that it travels. I know a lot of numbers that I don't ever use publicly, but over the last 3 years in the SEC, we've done pretty well on the road, and we've done pretty well at home. How does it compare within the SEC? I know, but I think it speaks to and answers your question. I'm trying to be very protective of what I say, so it doesn't come across in an arrogant or egotistical way. But yeah, I think it does.
Talking with Joe Klein, who was doing that game on TV for SEC Network, and he played at Arkansas, and he and John Thornton were talking, and I asked him, did you like playing at G. Raleigh? Like that atmosphere that we're going to go into at Ole Miss on Wednesday. If you're a player, we talk about how, this is why you come to Texas A&M to play at Reed Arena. Totally get that, because you get 17 games or so from there. But you also come here to play in SEC places like you're talking about at Auburn, right? And when you have a player like Four, who seems to shine in those moments, again, not too big, but you could, as you were saying, you can say it about a lot of your players. Pharrell Payne's played throughout the Big Ten. So has CJ. Zurich Phelps being probably the top of the scouting report when he's with SMU and having to go through the American Conference. There's something to that. But that's another reason why you come to play college basketball, to play and silence a crowd on the road becomes fun as well.
Yeah, I think that's another portion of the competitive maturity. Mm-hmm. I think all of our guys, from a competitive standpoint, they enjoy being the underdog, whether that's the social media underdog, whether that's the underdog like Notre Dame is tonight against Ohio State, that type of underdog. But I also think in environments, they're comfortable with all of that. I think that's part of our success on the road. I don't think that it changes how they process the game, the decisions they make. Maybe earlier in their career, at times, the emotion of the environment would alter their state. I think we're kind of, from a maturity standpoint, we handle all of that fine. They've had a lot of reps in that regard. So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, playing on the road in some of these arenas against some of these teams, against all of those top 20 teams, and that's bigger than – that's living a dream that many of them had. Yeah. And so I don't think that the ambiance casts them in a different light. Right. And I think their maturity allows us to kind of stick to the plan, so to say, and try to give ourselves a chance to be successful in those environments.
One of the memories that I have is Solo's first SEC road game at Gainesville. He was the first one. He led the team on the floor, and as that place is going nuts and booing the Aggies, Solo's got a smile on his face.
Yeah, though, I don't even Solo's probably a little different just because of his life experience prior to here, but I don't think the environment changes him any in regards to how he goes about his work. And I think we have a couple of guys that are probably in that same group. So he was probably a little earlier to mature in that regard than most good players are. But I think that's his life experience and how he got to this point.
But by you and your staff surrounding him with the Fours and the Qs and the Boots of the world, and if I'm leaving someone out, I apologize, but that's who he learned from, right?
I'll tell you who on this one, and I know you're not intentionally leaving anybody out, the person that I think is most responsible for his growth was Dexter was here in his 5th year when So was a freshman. And it was a very unique big brother relationship.
Yeah.
You've seen them before. This one started almost day one. You remember Dexter wasn't here in the summer.
Right.
He had to complete 400 hours of his internship in order to graduate. And so he wasn't here for any of the OTAs or anything. And that's when Solo was starting summer school following his senior year of high school. So Dex didn't start until we started at the Lincoln Center the day after Labor Day. Like, he wasn't here, period. And that relationship was really, really mentoring. And he would hold Solo accountable immediately. And not because they're from the same state, but I do think that expedited Solo's growth and maturity, because Dexter was as mature of a competitor, the best listener I've ever coached. And so his impact on Solo was tremendous. And Dex had a little bit of that same inflection on Manny. Manny obviously was a year older and had already lived through his freshman year, but Dex and Mo got really close, and it was because they lived together. It was because they roomed together on the road. Dex's mentoring of Solo, I think they know a lot of the same people. They're from the same state, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that, just like I may have mentioned this to you post-game, you know, Q's mentoring and example to all of those guys during his 3 years here, his willingness to come back after the COVID season when we were so pitiful, and have the year that he had. Once Marcus Williams left the team, you could almost say that Q's run, I think we played 40 games that season. Q's run over the last 20 games were as good as any guard has had here, maybe since Antoine's junior year when he declared and was a lottery pick. And AC had a long run too as a senior, but I think Q's willingness to still be coached when the NCAA awarded Q, or all Q's, a 5th year, that was a legacy win in Indianapolis versus Purdue. But like I was telling Q after he spoke in the locker room, like, you won the game because of the example you set when those guys that are now old in there, when you allowed me to coach you the way I coached you when you were their age. They were freshmen watching that. And so those freshmen are now seniors and 5th year guys, and they just kind of think that's the way it's supposed to be. And a lot of that is Q. And then I think Boots would be in a separate category because Boots graduated early. We signed Boots at Virginia Tech, never coached Boots. He stayed to fulfill his commitment. He graduated. So he did enter the portal, but he graduated, and that he chose to come here and literally could have went anywhere in the country. And he did not come here because of money, and I probably shouldn't say that publicly, but that he came here because of the relationship. And this is a guy who's been through boot camp. This is a guy who's been through individuals. This is a guy who's been through training camp. And he still wanted to come here after being an all-league player, after playing in the NCAA tournament for someone else. I think in an unspoken way, any undercurrent of thoughts or opinions or locker room talk, it was squashed upon arrival. So this dude has been through it and wants to come back to it. And I think that's when our demented category we're rolling now. That's part of it.
Buzz Williams The Aggie Basketball Hour with Buzz Williams. Couple more segments to go. Stay with us. This is Aggie Basketball from Learfield. Make sure you head on over to your local Rudy's or Rudy's.com to place an order for their real Texas barbecue. Enjoy 100% oak smoked meats, delicious sides, and Rudy's signature sauce. And don't forget, Rudy's serves made-to-order and grab-and-go breakfast tacos every day until 10 a.m. We continue with the Aggie Basketball Hour with Buzz Williams from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station, along with Buzz before these 2 games on the road. We've used these words with you, I know, in the post game, but I just thought that Saturday against LSU, the resolve, the resilience, the relentlessness that this team plays with, Buzz, can that take its toll on an opponent? Because the Aggies do all those things for a full 40 minutes. And John and I talk about this. Like, we'll play Florida. Oh, I don't know how fast they are until you feel on the court how fast they are. So if you're opposing Texas A&M, oh, yeah, they're good rebounders. I see the numbers. But how good are they? And it goes on for the entire 40 minutes. Back to identity, which is what we've talked about. Can that take a toll on an opponent?
Yeah, I think it probably does. Just like they have some skill that takes a toll on us as well. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's rebounding, maybe it's pace, maybe it's just their talent. There's going to be some level of stress that the opponent provides. I do think one of the stressors that we hope to be consistent is how hard we play, how together we play, how physical we play. I do think that we try to play fundamentally sound in regards to us being on the same page on what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're trying to accomplish it. There's very few possessions anymore where you can pinpoint, what are you doing? Not just offensively, but also defensively. And so I do think the consistency of all of those things combined provide some level of stressor, but it applies vice versa as well. Ole Miss is going to switch every single thing. Okay, well, they're the only team in the league that switches every single thing. You play Kentucky, they play 5 out, pretty 5 out all the time. Okay, that provides a stressor. Talent is always going to be a stressor in this league from a one-on-one matchup standpoint. One-on-one matchup, whether that's while the ball's in the air. Sometimes we can do a good job of that with our physicality. Sometimes it's one-on-one prior to the shot from a one-on-one matchup. We were struggling, particularly in the first half, of guarding LSU off the bounce. It was causing stress. We couldn't guard the ball one-on-one. And so now we're going to spend time in rotation because the guy that's on the ball, whoever that is, couldn't fulfill his responsibility. And so now the other 4 with him are going to have to help. And now that's going to create another level of stress. And so you try to, like kind of like reading a book. When you're in 5th grade, you do a book report. And we're trying to get past the book report. We've all read the book. We're trying to figure out, how does he score? How do they score? Not, oh, he's really talented, he's really fast, he can really shoot. But not just the individuals, but also the team. How do they score? And how will they score against us? And what do we need to be prepared for? And I think we try to view that through the prism of both sides. How are they going to guard us? Mm-hmm. How is 4 going to score? How do we as a team need to score? How can we get Gochi touches based on how they defend? Who is the matchup that we think will defend Gochi? And then we try to do that same thing defensively. And so we're not trying to give our players a book report. We're trying to explain how and why we have to do what we're doing in the film room and in the practice court in preparation for the opponent, because we anticipate that's what's going to come to life. You know, it's like we don't want to give them the cliff notes of, well, hey, you know what? Ohio State's receivers, they're probably the best in the country. And they got 2 returners that are pros, but they got a freshman that's probably more talented than the returners. And Chip Kelly is going to put them in positions to be successful in every possible way. Now, I can't say it any more than that because I don't understand it any more than that. But what I just said is what I've read because I know Coach Chip, because I love football. Like, that's just the cliff note. Yeah, we ain't giving Chip Kelly's not giving those kids cliff notes. Hey, man, this is how you're going to do it. This is why you're going to do it, because this is how Notre Dame's going to guard it. And Notre Dame believes in man-to-man, and we're not doing it like that. We're going to do it like this, and here's why. And here's pictures, and this is what we're going to practice. And now do you understand why we're going to do that? But whatever Sean McDonough is saying right now, he's just giving the cliff notes. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the people that are watching it, for the most part, they just want the cliff notes. But the guys that are on the grass that are wearing a pullover or wearing shoulder pads, hey, we don't need the cliff notes. We knew the cliff notes when we were in 8th grade. We need to know why. And so we're trying to continue to morph and improve specific to why. And I'm trying to do a better job as a head coach with our staff of quit giving the book report. We already know the book report. The book report's on Twitter. How, why, and then we got to show pictures to support that. And I think the staff is ahead of the curve with me on that. But I think that's where this is getting to, because you're fighting air on how to create it. Like it's kind of, I practice what I'm going to say. Because I don't want to create a false narrative. Mm-hmm. And Rock brought up a good point last week to me. Like, I live in such a narrow lane that my interaction is only with the people who are on Team Bus 1. That's it. Mm-hmm. You going out to eat? No, I'm going to my house. Where are you going to eat? Oh, I'm going to eat at the office. And I'm not complaining at all, but I'm saying I have no interaction. This is my interaction outside my office for the week. Mm-hmm. So when I have to go have conversation, my language, I need to practice it. And so when I have to respond to Cliff Note questions, I become too wordy because I'm trying to give context, because I think that's what I'm supposed to do. But, like, I have to improve. Just like I was so upset with myself, and it convicted my heart. I was so upset with myself on how I answered the question pregame about Jay Lee. And, like, as soon as you finished, I got to go talk to the TV people. Okay, and now I'm right back to the lane I know I'm about to live in for the next 5 hours. I didn't know that you were going to play the Jay Lee question on the radio show. Yeah. And now I'm listening to it again, and it's like God's way of teaching me again that what my heart was convicted by when you asked me. And I'm walking up the stairs at Reed, and I'm like, God dog it, I didn't practice that. I didn't practice what I was going to say on the scholarship with Jay Lee. And that's very immature on my part. But the reason I didn't practice it is we gave it to him on Friday. So I don't practice what I'm going to say on Friday for a Saturday game because I've already put it away. And then I'm replaying in my mind what I said. And I'm like, man, that's just the Cliff Notes. That kid, that mama is so more deserving of just that stale answer I gave. And then now here we are 50 hours later, and you're playing it. And I'm like, yeah, Monaco, I do not want to be measured by winning and losing. The greatest wins I will ever have are who these young men become. And that scholarship changes that kid's mother's life because he's going to earn a diploma, and he came here and has paid his way and never asked for a scholarship and has been in every practice, been at every film session, been at every weight room session, always been on the scout team. And then we sub him in and play 3 real minutes at Kentucky because of the trust and the work that he's garnered. He was 3rd last month in shots taken in the gym when Buzz wasn't in the gym. 3rd. And I'm like, why didn't you say that? I didn't say that because I didn't practice that. But now it's social media and, oh, Josh put it on Twitter, and I get all of that. And I'm like, no, not the Cliff Note, not what the fan wants to hear. No. My relationship as a man with that young man on his mother's trust in Rock and I to come here and pay his way, I failed. And I failed because it turns out like, oh, that's fun. Fun? That's life-changing. You know what I mean? But because we live in a world that just goes so fast, and because I live in such a narrow world, when I have to get in this presence of, okay, let's talk Cliff Notes. Well, you lost 2 last week. I want to snap, and I can't snap because they're not in that lane, and that's part of why I get paid. And I have to do a better job, and I didn't do a good job in that answer, and it was because I wasn't prepared. And of all the things that I do, I have to be prepared specifically when I'm using a microphone.
We will see you thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. We will see you tomorrow, and we'll have a game on Wednesday.
Let's hope we get there, baby.
I
Thank
hear
you.
He is Buzz Williams, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. At Ole Miss Wednesday, that is an 8 o'clock tip. That means our pregame show comes to you at 7:30. Saturday at Texas, that is a 1:30 game, so 1 o'clock with our Dos Equis tip-off show, the Aggies and the Texas Longhorns, and that is our next Cotton Holdings Lone Star Showdown. Ole Miss on Wednesday, Texas on Saturday for the 13th ranked Fighting Texas Aggies, 14-4, 3-2 in conference play, and 2 tests on the road. For head coach Buzz Williams, I'm Andrew Monaco. We thank you so much for joining us for the Aggie Basketball Hour with Buzz Williams. Thanks and gig 'em. This is Aggie Basketball from Learfield.